On today's show, despite getting good injury news from both Devin Booker and Jalen Green, the Phoenix Suns without them fall at home to the Miami Heat, 111-102. How do they avoid this so that they can continue playing well even without their star players? Let's talk about that and much more in this edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in to yet another edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns. My name is Benjamin Garcia, host of The Ben Garcia Show. Mornings, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. where we talk all Arizona sports on YouTube, streaming live, and a credentialed Phoenix Suns media member covering your Phoenix Suns 365 days out of the calendar year for the #1 sports podcast network in the land, the Locked On Podcast Network. Wherever you might be watching, consuming, listening, viewing Locked On Phoenix Suns, I appreciate you making myself and this show a part of your day. You have a lot of other options out there, so thank you for continuously making Locked On Phoenix Suns your first listen. But reminder, Locked On Phoenix Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button to do what thousands, dare I say millions of Suns fans have already done. Become it every day and get Locked On the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Fanduel, and it's the last call for football on Fanduel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. So, despite getting good injury news from Devin Booker and Jalen Green, and just quick disclaimer on that, I did a show immediately after the Suns-Hawks game. I probably should have looked at the Devin Booker injury twice, but I mentioned to you guys that it looked like Devin Booker, twisted his ankle outwards, like his foot was facing the outward side. I was wrong there. It was a regular, normal ankle sprain. I saw a weird camera angle on it when I was watching the game. So it's actually seems like better news. And we got good news on the Devin Booker and Jalen Green injury front. So stick around for later in the show when we talk about both of those things. But again, I was wrong about that Devin Booker thing, so I apologize for that. I definitely should have went deeper into that. But either way, that's why I love you guys. You guys are on me. You guys are incredibly smart listeners, viewers. It's why I always got to be on top of my A game, because if I'm not, you guys, the viewers, and you will let me know about it. So thank you for that. Keeps me on my toes always. You guys are awesome. But despite those two guys tonight, the Phoenix Suns fell at home to the Miami Heat. And, we're here right now at Mortgage Matchup Center, and you guys know that I get a decent amount of things thrown at me because I think I'm willing to say the quiet parts out loud so that we can have discussions about these things. And sometimes it can age a little outlandish, and I understand that, and it's why I always have to continuously hold myself to that standard, of being better and doing things right the next time if I get something wrong. But I know right now in Suns land, there's a bit of panic, because the Suns have lost 2 straight games to 2 teams that they probably should have beat, and they don't have either of their 2 star players. And I'm going to take the glass half full approach on this, and I think maybe people would think that maybe I wouldn't do that. This team has earned the right to prove you wrong. And tonight, you felt better about coming into this game, because even though they didn't have Devin Booker or Jalen Green, the Miami Heat got into Arizona at like 4:30 a.m. last night. They had a bunch of guys on the injury report, Wiggins and obviously Norman Powell. Those guys all played. I think it was Pelle Larsson too was on there. They all ended up playing, but the cards were stacked in the favor of the Suns. They were favored by 5 points in this game. And this is why I thought the Suns would come out and win this game. One, when they lose games, they don't tend to lose multiple games in a row. If they do, they usually seize the moment and find a way to end a losing streak before it even begins. So that's one reason, right? They've always bounced back. But the other reason why I felt like these next 2 games, the Miami Heat and the Brooklyn Nets, that I thought they would come out victorious in both those games, is because you talk about Grayson Allen and Jamari Bouye and Dylan Brooks and Jordan Goodwin, and even Mark Williams at times, and Oso Ighodaro over the last couple of weeks, sweet baby Oso, where they are all having like career-level years. Colin Gillespie's having a career year. That you felt like the Suns were in a better place offensively even without Devin Booker and Jalen Green, you thought that they could carry the load for teams like the Heat and like the Brooklyn Nets that they have coming up on Tuesday. But I think more than anything, we continue to learn with games without Devin Booker just how important he is to this offense, which is why I touted for him to be an all-star this year, because even though some of his efficiency statistics aren't there this year, i.e. field goal percentage or three-point shooting percentage, and I believe his free throw percentage is a tick down this year, is because what Devin Booker does for this offense when he's not on the floor can't be traced by statistics outside of plus minus. His gravitational pull is so massive that it gets guys open like a Bouye, like a Goodwin, like a Gillespie, like a Grayson Allen. Like Grayson Allen has been someone who, I agree with you guys, has had a rock star level year, and because I completely did away with all of my trade talks last show after the Jalen Green injury because you absolutely need Grayson Allen now. I'm not interested in trading anyone anymore because new information comes out. Jalen Green is out again. We're not sure when he'll be back. It sounds like sooner rather than later. But with that potentially lingering, I don't want to trade anyone. My argument was always they have these abundance of guards. They should trade one of them. No, I don't want to do that anymore. This team needs Grayson Allen. But when you turn Dillon Brooks into the best player on this team, like he's the new one with Jalen Green, Devin Booker out, and Grayson Allen is the new two, then it starts to get a little dicey. Dillon Brooks was pretty effective tonight. He was 11 for 23 at 26 points. He could have been a little bit more efficient, but, those aren't bad statistics. But Grayson Allen was god-awful. He was 4 for 18, 1 for 11 from 3. And I had someone sitting next to me in the media booth just right over here. And after Grayson Allen missed his literal, 10th three of the night, they'd said, God, you got to stop shooting that. You got to stop shooting that three. You've missed 9 of them. And normally I would agree with that person. You have to know the moment. And normally I would agree with that person and say, yeah, he's got to be better. But who else do you want taking that shot? Did you want Jamari Bouye taking a three-point shot over Grayson Allen? No. So that is the state of the Suns' offense right now with Devin Booker and Jalen Green being out. Both guys are effective on-ball creators. Even if I have some concerns about Jalen Green's efficiency, he creates shots better than everyone else on the floor outside of Devin Booker and maybe Dillon Brooks this year, who's having a really good year. But what the Suns failed to do tonight on multiple occasions was get out in transition. This was gross from the very beginning for the Phoenix Suns. First off, this was absolutely insane. The first quarter lasted nearly 40 minutes of regular time. Normal first quarters are not normal. All first quarters in basketball terms are timed 12 minutes. That first quarter lasted nearly 40 minutes, 40 minutes of actual time. And the reasoning for it is because the Suns had really bad defensive discipline. The Suns were really good defensively for, I thought, the final 3 quarters of this game. But there was bad discipline on fouls. The Suns had 10 fouls in the first quarter. And all of them, I know the officiating was not great tonight. Really, it wasn't. But you guys know me. I don't want to talk about officiating. I think it's lame. What I will say is the officiating in the NBA is bad everywhere, so everyone is dealing with it, and I wish it would get fixed, and I wish there would be some consistency, but that's not a new take. What I will say is I don't agree with that in the first quarter. I thought the Suns did a really poor job in the first quarter being disciplined on defense. There was a multitude of times in this game in that first quarter where they were slapping down on players' wrists, where they were coming up instead of staying on their feet and putting their hands up on defense. They did a poor job getting out on shooters. Guys, ultimately, that first quarter was horrible. 10 fouls, and I think they had 6 turnovers as well. I think it was, 6 turnovers in the first quarter. That's lazy, that's sloppy, that's undisciplined basketball. And there was at one point all the way in the third quarter where the Heat had 17 second chance points to the Suns' 4 second chance points. That ended up kind of getting a little closer towards the end, but it shows you how bad at times the Suns' effort was on the glass or defensively. And so I don't know what you attribute that to. I don't think there's really anything to attribute that to. I think it was just a bad night for the Suns. Sloppy defensively. Maybe they're tired from that really long road trip. That's not a good enough excuse either. But this is just kind of what the Suns offense looks like without Jalen Green and Devin Booker. But that's not a good enough excuse. It's not a good enough excuse. Every team in the NBA deals with injuries, including the Suns. Now, are the Suns one of the more injured teams in the NBA, it feels like this year? Yes. But there's other teams who have been more injured, i.e., look at the team up north in the Denver Nuggets. They've been, horrendously injured all year. They're still winning games. Injuries are a part of the game. It cannot be an excuse for why you're losing games. And so you kind of saw that. You kind of saw that in this game, it felt like at multiple times where the Suns' injuries felt like that caught up to him, but it's not good enough. You need more from Grayson Allen. You need more from Dillon Brooks. Like I had mentioned, Dillon Brooks could have been a little bit more efficient tonight. He can't make an entry pass to Mark Williams in the low post to save his life. Grayson Allen was really bad tonight. All around was really bad tonight. Colin Gillespie was 4 for 12. Royce O'Neal was 2 for 10. He was 0 for 7 from 3. But here's the most egregious part. Mark Williams was 4 for 6, and the Suns phased him out of the offense. He didn't get his first points until the second quarter with 9 minutes left to go. So, there's a few different reasons why it didn't work out, and we will continue to discuss that. We will continue to get on top of that, and so let's do it next. Today's episode is brought to you by the lovely folks over at Fanduel. It's the last call for football on Fanduel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. We got the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. That's going to be an absolute awesome matchup. But this is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorites, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make sure the Super Bowl is even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count. Because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football fans on FanDuel and an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Also, a reminder, guys, we did launch our Everydayer Club, and listen, just a special offer for you. The NBA trade deadline is basically here. We want to give you a free month of our new Everydayer Club. You'll get an ad-free version of this show, and if you sign up by the trade deadline on February 5th, you can use code DEADLINE to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more, or go to the episode description if you're listening on audio, or go to the YouTube section down low, and you can find all the details there on lockedonsons.supercast.com. Just $5 a month to get more Locked On Suns and some exclusive content as well. Thank you for continuously supporting Locked On Phoenix Suns. So I talked about that Mark Williams thing, and I wanted to continue to talk about that because there is a trend with this Suns team, and I know that I have now said that I'm out on trading anyone. There is one player out there that I am interested in, Gertrude Yabusele, but that's a very small trade, and if you traded Nick Richards for him and something small, cool. But outside of that, and you guys have told me this, some of you have told me this, you're sick of the trade discussions. I'm so out on trading players at this point because the Suns' instability at the guard position to stay healthy, that's why they're there now. You need those surplus of guards, so I'm not interested in trading anyone anymore. New information comes out, I'm going to change my mind. And the reasoning why I say all that is because the Suns' size has obviously been a weakness of their game all year long. The Suns' weakness on the boards have been a weakness all year long. That's not going to change anymore, especially if we're not talking about doing a trade, and you probably shouldn't be anymore with the fact the Suns have had a couple of different injuries, and you're going to need those guards. But what I don't like about this team is they phase Mark Williams out of the lineup, out of the rotation, out of the offense far too often. I love what Oso Ighodaro has been doing for this team. I love what my sweet baby Oso Ighodaro has been doing right before our very eyes. But they have been adding Oso Ighodaro more into the offensive playbook and not enough of Mark Williams, who I thought in his spots tonight played well. This isn't like a DeAndre Ayton discussion where DeAndre Ayton has a want to and a motor issue where he's not getting the ball and part of it is his fault. I think the Suns just don't even look for him. In the starting lineup tonight, Mark Williams had the fewest shots. If we just go down the fewest shot attempts, if we just go down the line, Royce O'Neal took more shots than him. Dylan Brooks took more shots than him. Grayson Allen took more shots than him. Colin Gillespie took more shots than them. And when I say those four other guys took more shots than him, I mean it's by a significant margin. The closest person to Mark Williams is Royce O'Neal, and he took 10 shots to Mark Williams' 6th. But when I talk about this, Jamari Bouye had 6 shots tonight, guys. Ryan Dunn had 6 shots tonight. Oso Ighodaro had 5 shots tonight. You traded for Mark Williams for a reason, and I don't think you gave up significant assets. You gave up 2 late first-round picks. Who cares? Mark Williams is more than worth that. He's a young player, but I don't like when this team phases Mark Williams out of the lineup, and I don't think it's a Mark Williams issue. He's active offensively. He's the only player on this team. I shouldn't say that. He's the only big on this team that sets a legal screen outside of Oso Ighodaro with that. But Nick Richards, that's one of the reasons why Nick Richards never plays. He can't set a legal screen. Mark Williams sets legal screens. He has been pretty good defensively this year, and they're not rewarding him with the ball. I know this team shoots a lot of threes, but there still needs to be a healthy shot diet for Mark Williams to help make teams pay down low so that they aren't getting out on shooters as effectively, knowing that they might have to double Mark Williams in the low post. And when you're playing these bigger teams like the Miami Heat, who have a lot of big players, Jaime Hawkins is a bigger guard, Bam Adebayo is a bigger player, even guys like Pele Larson or Andrew Wiggins who are long, lengthy defenders, the Suns can get overshadowed by those guys. And the fact that we aren't getting more Mark Williams to help combat that, who's actually a bigger player, that is truly frustrating. And I think you're not rewarding him for a job well done, and I think he continues to play well. So the Mark Williams thing continues to be a statistical anomaly for me. Here's the other thing that I don't like. I don't like that the Suns are smaller and they don't have 2 of their better players, and still Kaman Malawach and Rasheer Fleming don't get playing time until the game's already over. They sent them to the Valley Suns earlier today. Rasheer Fleming and Kaman Malawach both played today earlier with the Valley Suns and then played today later in this game, but super late when the game was already out of reach. And it's just frustrating because you saw some of the offensive game from Malawach in the G League. Yes, I know it's the G League, but if your team is playing poor offensively, why not give him a run? Why not try to combat what the Heat do with their bigger lineup than yours by throwing Kaman Malawach and Mark Williams out there? I wish the Suns did that a little bit more. Here's the other thing. I'm not going to get at Jordan Ott. I don't think Jordan Ott is a bad coach. I think he's a great coach. I think he's borderline coach of the year. But I didn't think he had a great game tonight either. Without your 2 best shot creators in Jalen Green and Devin Booker or whatever, 2 of your top 3 shot creators, that's not the point of the topic of discussion. That's not the argument I'm making. I know the Suns like to play a random level of offense where I don't even know what to say. It is literally a random level of offense where it's sporadic, it's ever-changing, it's random. Hence the word random offense. I think there needs to be more structure in this offense when there's no Devin Booker and Jalen Green. Devin Booker and Jalen Green obviously will thrive in those kind of random-ish offenses when guys are hitting their shots. But I don't think when you get these guys in a half court and you just have them toss the ball around, you're not running a lot of set plays, that it helps them. And so I think Jordan Ott could do better about that, about making it a little less random when you don't have Devin Booker and Jalen Green. And I wish the Suns played to their strengths more. And I wish they gave the young guys a little bit of run. What do you have to lose? The Suns continuously in this game, it actually felt like there for a second they might actually win it. But what was frustrating is the Suns kept on closing the gap. Like, let me look at this before on my notes, because in my notes from this game, because it was in the third quarter. I know it was 48-48 in the second quarter, and then the Heat went on a 10-0 run. It was 58-48 to end the half. Then in the third quarter, the Suns went on a run. It was 56-60. Then it got sloppy again. More turnovers. Now it's 65-56. Now the second chance points conversation comes in. 17-4. Really bad in favor of the Heat. Suns keep getting closer and closer and then tying it, and then the Heat always have an answer. The Suns went into the fourth quarter with Isaiah Livers hitting a big three to end the quarter, because that sparked the comeback. It ultimately didn't. And I want to say this. The Suns' culture and identity did show up in this game. They played very well defensively for the last three quarters of this game. But when you only score 92 points? 101 points? What was it? 111. When you only score 102 points, that's not good enough in this modern-day NBA, especially when you shoot. I can't believe I'm this far into the game, and I'm not talking about the Suns' field goal percentage. Especially when you shoot 37% from the field and 20% from three. Injuries happen to everyone. Still, you got to step up. And again, like, that stuff will get better when those guys get back, but it's not good enough. You know, this is a professional NBA team. You got to shoot better than 37% from the floor and 20% from three. So with that being said, let's talk about the good news from today. Let's go glass half full. Is the Suns season proverbially over without Jalen Green, Devin Booker? Well, no, but spoiler alert, they might be back closer or sooner than you think, and let's talk about that next. Today's episode is brought to you by the lovely folks over at Game Time. There's nothing like being in the arena for an NBA game. The crowd, the energy, the big moment. Getting tickets, though, that part has always been not so simple. So that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast and without the hassle. It puts the advantage where it belongs, with the fans. Pull up the Game Time app, pick an NBA game, and have tickets locked in within minutes. I love seeing the all-in prices up front. No surprise fees at checkout. Being able to see the view from my seat before buy makes the decision so easy. Zone deals always stand out. You choose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save. Great last-minute options with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's GameTime.com, not .com. All right, closing out the show. So we did get some good news on the Jalen Green, Devin Booker fronts. You know, I mentioned to you guys at the beginning of the show, because I wanted to own up to it, where I saw a weird angle, and it looked like Devin Booker's his foot went outwards on the ankle sprain. So it wasn't an inward ankle sprain, it was an outward ankle sprain, and I hadn't seen that before. And obviously I still hadn't, because it didn't happen with Devin Booker on Friday night when he sprained it. So that was good. I saw a weird angle. I was wrong. I saw that angle again, and I was like, oh, yep, there it is. But we got good news on the Devin Booker injury front. And here's the good thing about ankle injuries. I'm not an expert on anything medical. But what I will say is I play a lot of basketball, play like 3 or 4 times a week. I sprain my ankles all the freaking time. My wife laughs at me because we went on a walk last week with the dogs, just baby walk. You know, wife's about to pop with our first baby. We're trying to, naturally induce labor, going on these walks. And I rolled my ankle walking. Like I roll my ankle all the time. And I say all this because rolling your ankle always looks way worse than it actually is. But even Devin Booker's ankle injury on Friday scared me because it looked way worse. Even when I saw the right ankle, it looked his ankle was parallel to the ground. It was touching the ground. Like, it looked worse than we all thought. But this is the weird thing about ankle injuries. They always look worse than they are. And it seems like Devin Booker isn't going to be out for a large period amount of time. And that changes everything for the Suns and what they want to do over these next couple of games as I quickly pull up the Suns schedule. If you can beat Brooklyn on Tuesday, which, again, even without your two top guys, still feels like a very winnable game. Let's say you lose to Detroit. Let's say you lose to Cleveland. You're then 28 and I think 21 on the season. You get Devin Booker back by next Sunday, February 1st against the Clippers. That's very plausible, but even more plausible, February 3rd against Portland, February 5th against Golden State Warriors. And you get back on track. He's going to be reevaluated in 1 week with that ankle injury. And if you're asking me, it might be a week and a half before he actually comes back into Suns action. But I know that I don't like to attack people, but it is frustrating. Because people obviously go after me, and that's okay. Like I say things, obviously come at me. What gets frustrating is when people act like they have sourcing for clout. One thing I've always been clear with you guys: I am not a reporter. I'm a opinionist. I'm a broadcaster, and I'm also a fan of this Suns team. I grew up watching them. I'm gonna give you my opinion. I don't have sourcing. I'm not gonna act like someone I'm not. And so it frustrated me because on the Twitter sphere, it's happened on 2 separate occasions this year where one account, I don't remember who it was. I think I do, but I don't want to put him on blast. One account was like, oh, Dillon Brooks isn't playing tonight. And then another account the other day said Devin Booker was out for 4 to 6 weeks. It's wrong to say you have sourcing and you don't. It's even more wrong when you play with people's health and you try to get ahead of the story instead of getting it right. And so that was frustrating when people kind of went into panic because they thought Devin Booker was going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. That doesn't look like the case. It sounds like, if you want my opinion on it, sounds like it's going to be like max 2 weeks for Devin Booker. If it was bad enough, they'd be like, yeah, we'll reevaluate him in 3 weeks. That's not the case. Sounds like it was a grade 1 ankle injury that looked worse than it was. And then here's the other one. And so here's the other thing, guys. Don't listen to people who are consistently wrong or consistently spotty about their track record. There's a couple of people out there that who I'm talking about. Stop listening to them. They don't know what they're talking about when it comes to that sourcing stuff. I don't want to go after their basketball opinion. Who has the right stuff. There's John Gambadoro's always on it. It feels like Dwayne Rankin. Feels like he's always on it. Shams Charania. Like, wait for those guys. There's a reason why they're the professionals. And then you had Jalen Green's injury, which it turned out he didn't even hurt on that shimmy shake on Dyson Daniels where he went to the basket and it looked like he grabbed his hamstring, where even I thought that. That's where everyone thought he got injured. Turns out he hurt it on a foul call play like 2 plays before that. So it turns out it seems like it's not actually a re-aggravation. It seems like it truly is some hamstring soreness. So it seems like, if you want my opinion on it, I don't think he plays on Tuesday. But I do think Jalen Green comes back and plays on Thursday or on Friday. I doubt he plays that back-to-back against the Detroit Pistons and the Cleveland Cavaliers on Thursday and Friday, but it seems like he's going to be back sooner rather than later. Or, maybe he takes Tuesday off, he takes Thursday off, and he comes back Friday, so he can then bounce back and play again on Sunday. So that's good news for the Suns, and it changes everything about what we thought on Friday. We're like, okay, how do you bail water? It was very frustrating. After the Suns had 2 key injuries, that's when all the Houston Rocket fanboys came out of the woodworks to try to clown me on a take I had about the Suns being the most surprising team and the Houston Rockets being one of the most disappointing teams this year, which I don't take back at all. It's funny that they come back and clown on you after they see 2 of your best players get injured, but, what are you going to do? I don't even know if it's Rockets fans. It's probably Kevin Durant stans, and you guys know how I feel about those people. And so, great news for the Suns on the injury front. And they're going to continue their surprising season. Maybe it knocks them out of us thinking about playoff contention, not play-in contention. They're clearly going to be a 7 or 8 seed. It feels like they're pretty easily going to be the 7 seed. But maybe for now we're not talking about being an outright playoff team. Maybe we're talking about a play-in team, but none of that matters. The Suns are still playing with house money. This has still been a transformational season, and it seems like they got a little bit of a break with the injury note, which is good. Sounds like Devin Booker and Jalen Green will be back very soon, and that is the good part of all this. That's the good part. And so let's not jinx it. Let's not freak out about it. Things seem like they are getting better. And so for the Suns team, it kind of changes how you view them and what they need to do. Can they win against Brooklyn on Tuesday? If you could win one of the next two against Detroit and Cleveland, they play really good against the Los Angeles Clippers, and then we'll go from there. But with that being said, guys, appreciate you guys tuning in to Locked On Phoenix Suns live from, well, not live, but pre-recorded from Mortgage Matchup Center. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Oh, quick also update. This is the end of the show, so that's okay. Personal life update. I mentioned it in the show. My wife, we are now less than 2 weeks out from our due date. And so when my daughter is born, I'm going to take a week off from Locked On Suns to be with the family. I'm not going to try to take any more than that. I will try to be around if there's any breaking news, but I just want to keep you guys aware of that. I'll make an announcement then too, but if I'm just gone off the face of the planet for a week, it's because my daughter was born, and I'm sure I'll post that on social media. But thank you guys. You guys are freaking awesome. Even when you guys go after me, I love doing this job. I love taking your feedback. You guys are amazing. So do me a favor, hit that like, share, subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. And I will talk to you guys on tomorrow. See you guys then. Have a heck of a week.